I'm Only Sleeping came out of John Lennon leaning into a part of himself that other people already recognized. He liked staying in bed. He hated being rushed, and he was amused by the idea that the world treated that as a moral failure. Contemporary Beatles sources and later session histories agree the song was primarily John's, and that one spark behind it was the routine of Paul McCartney showing up at John's house and having to wake him for afternoon writing sessions. So this makes the song pretty close to a sly self-portrait, with Lennon turning his own laziness, defiance, and dreamy detachment into something funny and kind of relatable. The track was built during the early Revolver sessions at EMI in late April of 1966, when the band was pushing harder than ever to make records that could not simply be reproduced on stage. Mark Lewison's session documentation shows they began work on it just before midnight on April 27th. They cut 11 takes and then returned on April 29th for Lennon's lead vocal. The vocal was not recorded in a plain, straightforward way either. The tape speed was manipulated, which helped give John's voice that slightly unreal, floating quality. Even before the famous backward guitar arrived, the record already sounded like it was half asleep and kind of half hallucinating. And yeah, the most famous thing about I'm Only Sleeping is probably that backward guitar, and the fascinating part is that the Beatles didn't settle for the easy version of the trick. Lewison's account says they chose the harder method: work out the melody forward, write it backward, then perform it so that when the tape was reversed, it would bloom into the right shape. Jeff Emerick, and later official Beatles material, tie the idea to George Harrison, whose yawning backward solo became the musical equivalent of drifting back under the covers. Honestly, it sounds effortless, but it actually took nearly 6 hours and a lot of patient trial and error. Interestingly, the song exists in several 1966 mixes, so the way it sounds depends on which pressing you owned. The American audience actually heard it before the British fans did, because Capitol pulled it from the Revolver sessions for Yesterday and Today, the same notorious album that had the Butcher cover, Scandal, and an early version included vibraphone, but that tape nearly vanished because later recordings partly wiped it. The fragment only survived by accident and was eventually released through the Anthology Project. So this song works because John takes his idleness, his daydreaming, and his withdrawal and makes it feel almost like rebellion. And that's what gives the song its lasting pull. It's really just about wanting some peace and space and a little bit of freedom from everybody else's noise. And if you ask me, there's nothing wrong with that.